Good evening. I would like to call to order the May 18th, 2026 budget hearing of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. Mr. Johnson will provide an introduction for this hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. The purpose of tonight's board hearing is to provide the community with an opportunity to offer input regarding the proposal final budget for 2026-2027 fiscal year. The board approved the proposed final budget as it is April 20th meeting, and approval of the final budget is scheduled for June 1st. The finance team has worked closely with the administration and with me to develop this proposed budget. It is designed to support the instructional and student support programs that serve our students while also maintaining district operations for the upcoming school year with an emphasis on long-term sustainability and planning for the foreseeable future. I'm very pleased with the work of our entire administrative team, including those who provided support and assistance throughout the development of this proposal. I believe this budget will enable our faculty and staff to continue the important work of educating and supporting our students while ensuring the effective operation of the district. Tonight, the finance team will present the highlights of the proposed budget, answer any questions you may have, and provide an opportunity for public input.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. At this time, I'd like to call on Randy Brown and Joe Vigileone to present the final 2026-2027 school year budget.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. We're very pleased to be here this evening. We've gone over the budget details with you for several meetings and had multiple committee meetings as well, heard from our CAC for Finance. Joe's going to present a very high-level presentation for you. Even many of the slides that have been prepared and presented are not new information, so he's going to go through those very high level. But if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. You received with your memo 2 additional documents, a budget summary and a presentation. Just going very quickly through both of those, starting out with the budget summary. On page 1, the revenue budget, is it increasing by 3.4%, approximately $7 million over the prior year's budget? Going to page 2, the expenditure budget is increasing by about $10.3 million or 4.9% as compared to the 25-26 budget. And again, salaries and benefits expense represent approximately 64% or 74% of the district's total expenses. Moving on to the PowerPoint. Again, many of these slides you have already seen, so we'll go through them fairly quickly, and we can recap at the end with any questions you may have. Starting on slide 4 shows you what has occurred already and what is still yet to occur in the budget process. Moving to slide 5, there's some new information on there in regards to the homestead, farmstead. The district received approximately $2.5 million of gambling funds for property tax relief in 26-27, which is essentially flat over the prior year. And then going forward to slide 8, again, the beginning fund balance, we're anticipating it beginning about $17.2 million. Revenue next year is about $214 million, with expenses at almost $222 million, leaving about a $7 million budget deficit. But that would leave ending unassigned fund balance at $13 million, which is within the 8% cap that the Department of Education allows us to have. Moving forward, this is the proposed tax increase with a 3.5% increase we've been talking about, and then showing a 7-year impact of tax increases. So the top line would represent what revenue would be, the district would have in revenue for real estate taxes had it raised taxes at the Act 1 index over the period of the last 7 years, in addition to the growth rate in assessed value in the district at that same time. And then the orange line is the actual tax increases done by the district over that same period, along with the assessed value growth. And noting that is about a $12.8 million difference between those two lines. Moving forward to slide 12, supplemental property tax rebate program continues again this year. I know we had a slight bump up last year as the state's program, which we matched, got a little more generous. And we just want to let you know that expenses are in line with where they were last year. So we see the $115,000 that was dedicated in 25-26 as the same amount for 26-27. Moving forward to slide 14, just want to give you some of the highlights as to where the revenues come from within the district. Going forward to slide 16, it's important to note that the real estate tax makes up almost 80% of our local revenue, but it also makes up approximately 63% of all district revenue. So when you have the Act 1 index capped at 3.5% and 60% of your revenue comes from that, it sort of limits the growth in the revenue right there. Moving forward on to slide 19. I have one less than that one. You can see within the salaries and benefits, they represent approximately 74% of the budget, as we said before. So if we're talking about where is the district budget going, what are you paying for, almost 75 cents on the dollar is going towards personnel expenses within the district. Moving forward to the budget matrix is what we call this. As you can see, the 25 and 26 budget, not only in line items, salaries, debt and other financing, supplies, equipment, but then also functional, whether it's going to support services, whether it's going to instructional, they're remaining very similar. So there's nothing really changing within the budget as to compared to what it was last year in terms of the amount going to different functions or different percentages to different expense line items. Moving forward to slide 23. These have been talked about for quite a while, almost since the beginning of the budget process that we've been going through. But again, these are the budgetary impacts which are leading you to the increase in expenditures you are seeing this year. So then moving forward on to 26, we have discussed this for quite a while. This is the fund balance cliff that we've been talking about. It is still there. It is still prevalent that it's being seen out there, and hopefully we will get some good information coming forward as we've been lucky enough to in past years that have that has kept the budget stabilized and pushed that cliff off. But when you have a year such as this year where revenues have grown at 3.4% and expenses at 4.9%, that's going to bring that fund balance cliff a little closer. So from there, just some more slides and then into the end. And we would be happy to go through anything on the budget summary and or the presentation that you would like to go through. Or if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, gentlemen. Board members, questions? Do you have one, Ann? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you both. At this time, then, we will have time for public comment about the budget. If anyone present would like to make a comment, please state your name and where you are from. Each individual will be limited to comments of 3 minutes as time permits for items on the agenda or related to board business. And as just a reminder, we will transition into the regular board meeting and there will be another opportunity for public comment as well. So is there anyone present who would like to make a public comment about the budget? Go ahead. You can come on up if you'd like to make a comment.
Okay, so
Just come to the podium, just state your name and where you reside in the district.
hi, my name's Kennedy, and I'm from here, State College. And the question is like for the budget. So if I'm corrected, you're getting like money from like the government to like for the budget to like raise. So like, does that like take out of like people's taxes? So people have to pay more for taxes?
I think the answer to that question is we are proposing a tax increase. So real estate taxpayers will be paying 3.5% more in their taxes. That is correct. We're not getting as much or enough from the federal and state government at this point in time that we're aware of that will eliminate the need for a tax increase.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kennedy. Anybody else who would like to make a public comment at this time, please come up to the podium and state your name and where you reside in the district.
Hi, I'm Jen Norris. I'm from Patton Township. I just wanted to comment briefly, if it's appropriate at this time, about the budget cuts that are being proposed used by cutting the elementary virtual academy program. Sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Is it appropriate to talk about the elementary virtual academy program budget cuts at this time, or did you want me to wait till later?
We have an item on that, so wait until then.
Okay. Maybe we'll just ask you to wait until the public comment at the regular board meeting
Okay.
right after.
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments online? All right. In that case, I would now like to adjourn the State College Area School District Board of Directors budget hearing, and we will move right into the regular meeting, where I will call to order the May 18th, 2026 regular board meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. If everyone present could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance if you are able.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us this evening, both in person and remotely. The board held an executive session just prior to this regarding personnel and student discipline. Board members, with the agenda before you, do you have any additional changes? All right, seeing none, at this time I'd like to call on the board secretary, Lynn Tressler, to conduct a roll call of the board members.
Dr. Anderson?
Here.
Dr. Davis?
Here.
Dr. Barlow?
Here.
Ms. Black?
Here.
Dr. Dino?
Here.
Ms. Huff?
Here.
Dr. Miller?
Here. Thank you, Lynn. I have a retirement announcement this evening. Chris Burke will be retiring at the end of the 2025-2026 school year after 33 years of service with the district. Burke spent his SCASD career working for the physical plant as a custodian and custodial supervisor across many schools. These include State High, Park Forest Middle School, the Delta Schools, Radio Park, Grays Woods, Hauserville, and Spring Creek Elementaries. David Parmalee, Assistant Director of the Physical Plant, described Mr. Burke as a diligent worker and supportive supervisor who always sought to provide students and teachers with a clean, safe, and healthy space to learn and thrive. He also says, Chris is known for his calm and steady presence, which provides a vital sense of warmth and order in the often bustling school environment, Parmalee said. His commitment to our community is truly appreciated, and he will be greatly missed. The board thanks Chris for his service and wishes him all the best in retirement. And at this time, I would like to call on Tim Letwin, our student representative from Delta High School, to share this evening's student update.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. 23 high school students attended the DECA International Career Development Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. Olivia Lee made school history as the first state high student to place first in an event at ICDC. Additionally, a special congratulation also goes to Spencer Stevenson Peck for placing in the top 10. High school advanced computer graphics 3 students recently completed the Hypersonic Horizons High-Speed Video Challenge. This year's challenge tasked students with visualizing and studying the benefits of wind tunnel testing for aerodynamic efficiency. Congratulations to Kyle Fritzsche on his second place award and the team of Donna Tan, Kylie Matsuda, and Kalia Maurer, who placed fifth.
All right, thanks, Tim. Jackie, do you have any legislative matters to report?
I have none tonight, thank you.
Oh, okay, all right. Jesse or Jennifer, do you have any updates from COG at this time?
I have none.
All right. In that case, we now have time for public comment. Each individual will be allotted up to 3 minutes for items related to board business that are not on a consent or action item this evening. For those items, public comment will be held just prior to voting on that item. Please state your name and where you reside in the district. I'd just like to point out, if you are here to make a comment about the elementary virtual academy, I think this would be the time to do it because it's an information item. Yeah. Okay. So if anyone present would like to make a public comment? All right. Please come up to the podium, state your name and where you reside in the district.
Hi, my name is Ellen Doherty, and I'm a Half Moon Township resident, and I'm here to reiterate the request that you stay the decision to close the Elementary Virtual Academy, or EVA, for at least 1 year to allow for a more thorough program assessment. EVA is a community of teachers, caregivers, and students. And as one of our parents says, we're a diverse group of beautifully different people. Many of our students have struggled to thrive in conventional brick and mortar settings, but have found a home in EVA where they're comfortable, confident, and able to succeed. I believe that the presentation that administration will be making later this evening is an accurate rendering of the situation from their vantage point. However, I can also attest that it presents a view of EVA that is limited in depth and scope. There is much about EVA that is not reflected. For example, there is an implication that in-person learning is not a core part of EVA. In contrast, one of the things that makes EVA unique is the sheer amount of in-person learning available. Many students come into the classroom daily. Others come in regularly for gatherings and trips. In fact, if EVA closes, Virtual Academy students' access to in-person and synchronous experiences will be very limited going forward. Limited access to specials is also highlighted. However, EVA's curriculum includes weekly lessons in art, PE, music, and science. Physical supplies are provided, including science equipment, art supplies, musical instruments, and the lesson content is actually more extensive than that offered in SCASD's traditional settings. Sometimes lessons even extend the information presented in core courses, such as history, which come with their own supplies, such as math manipulatives and physical books. The disconnect between administration's and families' perspectives has left many EVA families feeling listened to but not heard over the past few weeks. This is also a good example of why stakeholder feedback can be so important when making major program decisions. You need families' perspectives in order to have a whole picture of EVA, and I would strongly encourage you to seek out the teacher-staff perspective as well, as no picture of EVA is going to be complete without taking into account their knowledge and experiences. Next, we believe that there are ways to make and keep EVA viable. For example, EVA could be marketed at kindergarten orientation, where new families are looking for the best fit for their children as they navigate the transition into formal schooling. With some small investments, our virtual academy could also become competitive with other local cyber schools, further improving recruitment. Finally, we believe that SCASD's process for future program closures should be strengthened. In particular, there should be adequate involvement of key stakeholders. The board should be made aware of all program closures, and there should be standard timelines for providing adequate formal notice to impacted families. In closing, I ask again that you stay the decision to close EVA for at least a year. I also ask that you continue to give the EVA community the opportunity to engage in ongoing dialogue with you. We have valuable perspectives to offer. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else here who would like to make a public comment at this time? Come on up. Please state your name and where you reside in the district.
Hi, I'm Jen Norris, and I live in Patton Township. I have 2 children that went through EVA starting in fall of 2020, and it was just a remarkable program for our family. And I think in conversations with families recently, what the primary point that I want to make is that when you have a tough nut kid who just needs a different set of supports, an asynchronous program like what the Elementary Virtual Academy program provided was truly remarkable. It allowed for us to do schooling at home with, as Ellen just said, a huge set of books, manipulatives, everything came in the mail. It was wonderful. But it also allowed me to schedule therapeutic services that are, there's a huge amount of competition in State College for the after-school slots for therapy services. There are not enough providers, and there is a huge need. And so by having been able to do asynchronous learning, schooling with my girls, it allowed us to push into therapeutic services outside of those that were provided by the school district during business hours without taking them out of school. And it was a huge, huge, huge win when we were trying to make a really strong push for services for our kids, for early intervention services. So I just want to call that out to the board that Jen Yoder and Linda Andrews were remarkable, and what they were able to, the program that they were able to build, like, is noteworthy. It is just absolutely incredible what they have been able to do. And the way I kind of always use my kids as this example of the breadth and depth of what we ask from the district, but what they were able to do at both ends of the spectrum of my kids' needs was just absolutely remarkable. So I have a lot of compassion for these families. You know, we're past this stage of my girls' education, but I have a lot of compassion for the families of kids who have, families who have kids that can really benefit from a program like this. And I just wanted to give you one example of how it genuinely made a huge difference with private services. There's too much demand in State College for what can be met during after-school hours. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for your comment. Come on up, state your name and where you reside in the district. It's always weird to say that.
Good evening. Shay McGowan, President of the State College Area Education Association. I reside in Patton Township. I am speaking tonight because many of us are deeply saddened by the decision to discontinue the Elementary Virtual Academy, and the reason we are sad is simple: the children. EVA was created out of necessity during COVID, but it became much more than a temporary solution. It became a place where students who struggled in traditional settings could feel safe, connected, successful, and seen. For some families, EVA was the reason they stayed in our district rather than seeking other educational options. The report references a belief in in-person instruction as justification for discontinuing the program. But the families who choose EVA did so because the traditional in-person model was not the best fit for their child. One size does not fit all students. Public education should strive to meet students where they are, and EVA did exactly that. What also makes the decision difficult is that it overlooks the incredible work of the teachers and staff who built meaningful relationships and intentionally created opportunities for connection, support, and community within a virtual environment. Anyone who visited the program could feel the care and dedication that existed there. It is also disappointing that there was no meaningful discussion with stakeholders before the recommendation to discontinue the program was made. Families, staff, and students were not brought into conversations about how to strengthen, improve, or grow EVA. Instead, many only learned about the program's future when calls were made announcing it was ending. For a program that impacted children and families so personally, the lack of collaboration has been painful. We also have to ask, if enrollment declined, how much effort was truly made to promote and grow this program? How many district families even knew the option existed? Tonight, I ask the board to remember that this decision is not just about budgets, staffing, or programming models. It is also about real students whose needs were being met in this environment. Those children matter, and their families matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Would anybody else present like to make a comment this evening? Yep, come on up. State your name and where you reside in the district.
Okay, I'm back again. My name's Kennedy, and I live in, Dad, where do we live? Circleville? Ferguson Township. So I wanted to say that I'm not in the virtual academy thing anymore, but I used to be, and it was very beneficial for our family, and it like helped us a lot, and like the teachers are really good, and I feel like they like help like form personal connections with the students because they would like always come to like my dance recitals, and I know they would come to like other students like basketball games and stuff like that. And I feel like it's just like a really good program, and for like kids who like aren't comfortable going into real school. Yeah, that's all.
All right. Thanks for your comment. Is there anyone online who would like to make a public comment? We'll just go back and forth. No? All right. Any other public comment this evening? Come on up. State your name and where you reside in the district.
My name is Alexandra Kerner. I also live in Patton Township, and I agree with everything everyone here has already said about the program. My son was in it for 5th grade. He's a 7th grader now, but I just wanted to add a little context for a probably unusual demographic in this community. We're an active duty military family, and when we arrived here, it was 2023. Things had kind of been coming out of the chaos of 2020, but we personally as a family had just had a chaotic few years. We moved, this was our 3rd move since 2020. And the value of finding a program that worked like that for a student who had upended his life again and again and again, and he'd done online schooling, we did homeschooling, and then trying to find him a transition point to get back into where he'd be comfortable moving back to the in-person setting. And it worked marvelously. We had a lovely, lovely environment with Jen and Linda, with all the families that we met. We made connections that have lasted, even though he has grown and moved on and successfully transitioned into in-person school. And so it was a great find for us that program existed. And I was very excited about it. And we were, welcomed with open arms into it, and it was a very valuable experience, and I will regret it if it goes away. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment on that perspective. Would anybody else like to make a public comment this evening? Yep, come on up. Tell us your name and where you are in the district.
My name is Dorian McNeil, and we live in Ferguson Township. And what I would like to say is, the Virtual Academy has, provided a lot for, all the students, including me. And I feel like that is just, enough for, the Virtual Academy. And I think it's, and it has great teachers and everything, and that's all I wanted to say.
Right. Thanks, Dorian. Would anybody else like to make a public comment at this time? Nope, still nobody online, Lynn? All right. In that case, we will move on to our consent agenda, which includes several items that we will address with a single motion for approval. To facilitate any questions from board members, questions or discussion, pardon me, we'll go through each category individually. Board members, please raise your hand if you need clarification on any of the items as I present each group. We'll start with consent approval of the minutes. Any changes there? All right. Next, we have operations, a number of bids, including the bread bid rejection. Any questions about any of these? Yep.
I wonder if it'd be helpful to just explain what stop loss insurance is. That's item G. I'm not sure everyone knows what that is, so.
So we have a self-funded health care plan for the district. So that means that we pay an administrator to work with all the healthcare providers as intermediaries between our families, employees and their families who are covered by the insurance to pay all of those bills. Then the district must pay all of those bills outright. However, stop loss is another insurance program that our amount is right now $300,000. So whenever an individual exceeds $300,000 in expenses in a year, which we have a handful, then the stop loss carrier reimburses us for those costs above $300,000. So it's kind of like a an insurance policy for our insurance policy for those excessive needs.
But I mean, I think that we do self-insure, which is to a benefit of taxpayers. And so I think for people to understand that that is a really strong benefit to everyone in the community and that this is a protective layer for us. So thank you. I knew you could do it much better than me. So I appreciate you. Thanks.
All right. Other questions about consent for operations? Go ahead.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to express, I'm sure, appreciation from the whole board for a new CAC participant. I know a call went out from the district for new members to join any of our CACs who were interested. So I'm just pleased we had a response so quickly and hope we have some additional ones as well. Thanks.
Great. All right. Next, we have consent for instructional programs, student travel, and the 2026-27 assessment plan, which I believe we heard about at a previous meeting. Questions about that? All right. I'd now like to call for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, items 8 through 6.
Have so moved.
A second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any additional questions or discussion among the board? Any public comment about tonight's consent agenda? No. All right. In that case, board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I would like to call on Mr. Johnson now to say a few words.
I am thrilled to welcome Marissa Schaefer as our new food service director. Marissa has been a local chef and business owner. She previously served as an executive chef of the Nittany Lion Inn and managing chef of the Rolling Lion food truck. She brings decades of experience in culinary leadership, food operations, and developing community-focused food programs, along with a strong commitment to serving students and families. Marissa will take over for Megan Schaefer, who we miss dearly, who is retiring at the end of this school year.
Wonderful. So applause, I think. Hi, Marissa. Congratulations and welcome to our district. Next, we have our action items. Agenda item 9A is a motion to approve the administrative appointment of Megan Hull as Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum K through 12. This is shown in attachment 9A. May I have a motion and a second?
Anderson moved.
Jinx.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion about this action item? Do we have any public comment about this agenda item? All right. Board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I would like to again call on Mr. Johnson to say a few words.
I'm very excited to welcome Megan Hall as our new Assistant Superintendent of K-12 Curriculum and Instruction. Megan has served as the Director of Curriculum and Innovation at Keystone Central School District since 2020. Prior to joining Keystone Central, Megan served as an instructional technology coach in SCASD and as an instructional coach in the Penns Valley Area School District. Megan earned a doctorate in educational leadership and her superintendent letter of eligibility from Penn West University. She also holds a Master of Education and Educational Leadership and Administration, as well as a Bachelor of Science in English Education from California University of Pennsylvania. I am very pleased to welcome Megan back to our district. She brings a deep commitment to supporting all students and a strong record of instructional leadership. Megan will take over for Chris Merritt, who's retiring at the end of the school year.
All right.
Another person we will miss.
Wonderful. Applause. Thank you. Welcome to welcome back to the district. All right. Thank you, Curtis. All right. Agenda item 9B is a motion to approve an agreement with Bucks County IU-22 to assist the district with comprehensive plan services. This is shown in attachment 9B. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Barlow.
Have second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion about this item? Yeah, Deb?
So I was just curious, both for my own information and for the public's information, if we can differentiate between the comprehensive planning process and the strategic planning process? And are we planning to update the strategic plan, or does the comprehensive plan just make that not necessary anymore? Because from my notes, if I'm correct, the last time we did the strategic plan was in the summer of 2022.
Yes. So they're one and the same
Okay.
in most cases. The comprehensive plan is what we need to do for PDE.
Right.
We have to review it every 3 years. We'll be up in 27, 28, so we need to do it next year, 26, 27. So we need to get a stakeholder group and look at our mission, our vision, all the goals that are associated with it, including all the reports that go with it. So in the past, when Bob O'Donnell was in my seat, he brought in somebody from the West Coast, we would say, the wrong coast. But he would bring him in. His name was Mutu, who did the strategic plan, but it's basically informs the comprehensive plan. So it's basically one and the same.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Board? All right. Would anybody like to make a public comment about this agenda item? All right. In that case, board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 9C, which is a motion to approve upgrades to the Ferguson Township Elementary Stormwater and Playground. This is shown in attachment 9C. May I have a motion and a second?
Huff so moved.
Black second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion about this plan, which we've heard about quite a bit? All right, very well. Is there any public comment about this agenda item? No. All right. In that case, board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Agenda item 9D is a motion to approve a change order for the Mount Union Elementary Expansion Project. This is shown in attachment 9D. May I have a motion and a second?
Huff so moved.
Miller second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any question or discussion about this action item? No. Very well. Is there any public comment about this action item? No. In that case, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving along. Agenda item 9E is a motion to approve special inspections for the Park Forest Middle School. This is shown in attachment 9E. May I have a motion and a second?
Anderson moved.
Black
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion about this? No. Definitely seems necessary. Is there any public comment about this agenda item? No. In that case, board members in favor, please say, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just looking at the attachment, and there are two different values for the Hills Cairn. Like there's the proposed in the table, and then above the table there are two different numbers.
Oh.
And I'm not sure which one is right, and either one is fine with me, but I just wanted to point out in that attachment for the record.
Do we have Mike available? Or Randy?
Yeah, I'm looking at it here.
Okay.
If you look at the attachment, the numbers are the same.
Oh, that's helpful.
And it's the lower number.
Yeah.
But in the, embedded text in the agenda, the numbers are different,
Got it.
Oh,
in case that's helpful.
Okay.
actually, it's a better number.
All right.
We're all-
Yes, the
we're all-
table in the memo, we updated this, number got updated kind of last minute, and the number in the table did not. So the correct number is the 293,446.
The higher number.
4-6. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions about this agenda item? Good catch, Jackie. All right, is there any public comment about this agenda item? All right, board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Our final action item, agenda item 9F, is a motion to approve the 2025-2026-07 agreement. There is no attachment for this agenda item. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved. Barlow.
Half second.
I have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion about this? Usually not. All right. Any public comment about this agenda item? All right. In that case, board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We will now move on to our information reports. I believe Dr. Susan Swearer is going to be joining us remotely this evening. Over the past year, Dr. Swearer has conducted a comprehensive review of our bullying prevention practices, including come on up. Including policy review, stakeholder interviews, student focus groups, survey analysis, and staff training. Her work has resulted in a set of findings and recommendations that should help guide our continued efforts to support students and maintain a positive school climate. Dr. Swearer will be joined by Dr. Bucher and Dr. Beaver, who have been leading this initiative. So welcome, Dr. Bucher. And we have Dr. Swearer. All right. Wonderful. I turn it over to you.
All right, so as Dr. Swearer gets adjusted there, Dr. Miller presented that very well. So I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. Swearer to present her findings from her work over the last year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I am going to share my screen. Can you see just the slideshow?
I think so. Yes.
Very well.
Okay, fantastic. I just want to make sure. My biggest stress is technology. So anyway, it's great to see the board again. Nice to see familiar faces. I had a wonderful week in State College. I'm going to go through my report, and then if there's questions at the end of my report, I'm happy to entertain them. Can you see my next slide?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry, I need to move. Okay, there you are. Okay, so a little introduction about myself. I'm a professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I've been studying bullying and victimization and harassment since 1998. I've developed a cognitive behavioral intervention for bullying behaviors. We've developed a group intervention for youth who are bullied. I'm a supervising psychologist, parent of 2 daughters, chaired the research advisory board for Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation, and I recently co-authored the NASP Bullying Prevention and Intervention Position Statement. I've been working with schools since 1999. My model is it's kind of falls under the umbrella of participatory action research. So I'm interested in, what did State College want to know about bullying, prevention and intervention in their schools. And so it was an honor, to work with the staff and teachers at I always say SCASD, but then I know you guys say SCASD. So anyway, I'll talk about the definition and complexity of bullying, the background of my work, the scope of work, my review of your bullying policies, my review of your mental health programming, the quantitative data that I collected, the qualitative data, and then the recommendations that I'll make based on my experiences in State College and reviewing your policies and procedures. So before I dive into the State College, work that I did with you all, I want to set the backdrop in terms of talking about the definition and complexity of bullying behaviors. So bullying is unwanted, intentionally aggressive behavior. It involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated. And we know that kids who are involved in bullying may have some serious, lasting psychological difficulties. And so, stopping bullying is paramount for all of us. So bullying is a social problem that affects 3 out of 4 students during their school years. Adults often don't know how to effectively respond. and bullying is connected to mental health problems, a negative school climate, and it's expensive because it's connected to dropout, suicidal behavior, and litigation. It's important to know that bullying occurs in a continuum, and it's a dynamic. So individuals move in and out of these roles over time. And so when I share the data from your school district, we've analyzed the data looking at bully perpetrators, their bully bystanders, bully victim bystanders, bully victims, victims or targets, bystander victims, and bystanders. And then there are kids who are not involved in bullying, and I'll go through the numbers. But the important take home from this slide is that bullying is a complex social behavior that occurs over time, and people move in and out of different roles. It's also important, my work has really been rooted in a cognitive behavioral approach to bullying. So the way kids and individuals think about bullying is as important as the behavior. And so we have to intervene at both the cognitive and behavioral levels to prevent and alter bullying behaviors. So in terms of a background, my initial contract, and I met with the board in fall of 2024. I had a family emergency. My father had a heart attack, but is alive. So I delayed the work, and I'm grateful to the board for giving me what I would like to call, I guess, a grace period to work through some of, helping my parents with my dad's health issues. So I resumed work in summer and fall of 2025. I reviewed the SCASD Code of Conduct and bullying policies, and I reviewed mental health programming. So I met virtually with you all, with the school board. I consulted with CJ, Jonathan, Stephanie, Keith, and Nabil. We decided to use the Swear Bully Survey short form, which was administered to students in grades 4 through 12 in September 2025. And then I conducted in-person focus groups and individual sessions. And then I conducted the Target Bullying Intervention Training Program on October 2nd with student services personnel. I reviewed all of the bullying policies that I was provided by documents on Google Drive, on your websites. I looked at all the programming and SEL curriculum and professional development and training opportunities that SCASD provides to their staff. State College Area School District is in compliance with Pennsylvania state law on bullying prevention. Policies are posted on their website. In terms of mental health programming, State College had adopted the Second Step SEL curriculum, which in my opinion is one of the best curriculum or SEL programming in the country, as well as Character Strong. And Character Strong is an evidence-based approach to social emotional learning. So State College Area School District has used evidence-based kind of state-of-the-art programming in terms of SEL training. They use upstander training in K through 5. That is really critical. And when I go through your data, we'll talk a lot about, the bystander data that emerged. And so this yearly training is really important. So SEL training has been proven to reduce bullying, and State College Area School District is using evidence-based SEL interventions. In terms of the quantitative data, the State College administered the short version of the Swear Bully Survey, which basically asks questions from kids. Did you, were you bullied the past school year? Did you observe bullying? Did you bully others? And just some general kind of questions. We know that shorter surveys lead to reduced survey fatigue. Longer surveys, lead to lower participation rates. So we really wanted to get, an individual, this first snapshot in terms of trying to get a sense of the data for State College. And then I conducted in-person focus groups. So I'll talk about the quantitative data first, then I'll talk about the qualitative data. So the total sample of kids who filled out, or students in State College who filled out the short survey were 4,145 students. Nice breakdown between your high school, elementary schools, and middle school, and then a nice grade breakdown, pretty even across 4th through 12th grades. So in terms of demographic data, you've got, the race data probably mirrors the State College area school district data, with 72% of the students reporting as Caucasian. In terms of the students who filled out the survey, you had a nice split, even split between males and females. Then this slide looks at bullying experiences. And so the survey asks kids, so if they indicate, yes, I was bullied, then we ask, were you bullied every day, every week, every month? And so daily, obviously, indicates a more frequent occurrence of bullying. And so what I see on this slide and what I want to stress is that when kids report that they've been bullied, they've observed bullying, or they bullied others, the daily, slice is smaller than the weekly and monthly. And so what that indicates is when students are experiencing bullying, it's not a daily occurrence for the majority. And so that's a positive. And you can see that 84% of students said they were not bullied, 66% of students said they didn't see bullying, and then 96% of students said they didn't bully. And so, I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, how accurate is that? And so obviously self-report has some limitations in terms of, when kids say, yes, I bullied, they tend to underreport that behavior. So those are some take-homes, from this slide. In terms of bullying roles, 61% of students indicated that they were not involved in bullying, and then followed by the bystander category, which was 21%. So this ties into the upstander training that State College School District is using, and indicates that that's an important training for your students. In terms of bullying roles by grade, some highlights that I want to make from this slide is that most students report not being involved in bullying. Across involvement in bullying, so those, and you can see the key on the right where we break down involvement by all of those roles that were on that Venn diagram slide earlier. And so when you look at then the colors on these bars, you can see that 4th, 5th, and 6th graders tend to report more involvement in bullying across all those multiple roles. And then there's a bit of a spike in 9th grade in terms of involvement, and that makes sense because kids we know from the research that when kids transition from one school to another school, there tends to be a spike in bullying behaviors. And then we also know as kids age or get older that bullying tends to decrease. And so you can see in the 12th grade bar graph that involvement is the lowest out of the 4th through 12th graders. Then when we look at bullying by gender, again, there was, in terms of the students who filled out the survey, there was a nice split in terms of males and females. And so involvement across the roles really didn't differ by gender. And then we broke down bullying roles by race. And so again, most students reported not being involved in bullying, but I do want to draw your attention to when we add up involvement across Native American, Asian, Black, Hispanic, Latino, Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, white, biracial, and then the self-description categories, any number, even one, we want to address the fact that any student who's involved in bullying is too many. And so while a positive take-home is that the majority of students report not being involved, there are students who experience bullying, and so we need to think about, what are we doing, or what are you all doing as a district to, address any involvement in bullying, whatsoever. So then moving on to the qualitative data. So, quantitative data are great, but there's some limitations. And so qualitative data adds a richness to the quantitative data. So I held 3 focus groups at the following locations: State College Area High School, Delta, Mount Nittany, and Park Forest. State College area parents and guardians were emailed in August 2025 and were given the opportunity to opt their children into the focus groups. So I don't conduct focus groups without parental consent. So 16 elementary, middle school, and high school students had parental consent to participate in the focus groups. I asked the same questions in each student focus groups. So I was interested in their general experiences with bullying, their feelings about school climate and safety, their knowledge about reporting and support, and then their ideas about solutions and improvement. So most students said that they felt safe at school, and they were able to define bullying accurately. And so that was a really positive theme that came out of the focus groups. Every student was able to recite the definition of bullying and to talk about, the negatives about involvement in bullying. Most students said that they felt safe at school and that there was adult presence and that the use of security cameras helped them feel safe. Elementary school students reported that areas where bullying occurs are on their Chromebooks, recess, lunchroom, and hallways. High school students connected bullying to broader socio-political issues, mental health difficulties, and lack of acceptance of diversity. And then students uniformly reported that paraprofessionals are often bullied and, in their opinion, did not have power among the adults in the schools. In terms of individual session methodology, my original plan was to conduct focus groups with adults. But once it became public knowledge that I was coming to State College, I received over 30 individual emails from adults with concerns about bullying in SCASD. So I made the decision to conduct individual groups. So I conducted them in a neutral location. It was at the hotel where I was staying in a boardroom. I interviewed 17 adults, 15 minutes each, and 3 adults brought their children. And I asked 4 questions of everybody. So the questions for the adults were different than the questions from the students because adults and students are developmentally different, and adults have a more maybe nuanced understanding of the complexity of bullying. And so I wanted to share the new UNESCO and World Anti-Bullying definition with adults to get their ideas about that definition. And so you can read the definition, on the slide. And then I wanted to know what their experiences were with school bullying, and then an open-ended question, is there anything else, that you would like me to know? So the themes that emerged, there was overall lack of trust between parents and school, between the parents and school personnel. All adults, except for 1, felt that their children's school did not handle bullying well. Uniformly, they felt that there should be more training on safe to say and what happens when reports are made. And the adults that I interviewed also noted that they've observed bullying among teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals. So in terms of my recommendations, based on my experiences in State College, my experiences as a researcher, the quantitative data and the qualitative data, I've come up with some recommendations that I hope helps State College kind of think through how can they best respond to bullying, how bullying is treated, make it as transparent as possible, and address bullying holistically. So target training on how to consistently follow bullying response protocols. I think this is really important, particularly with turnover, particularly among paraprofessionals, having consistent training and training all staff. Having targeted training on how to responsively communicate with students and parents about reported bullying concerns. Have targeted training for paraprofessionals, including cafeteria and recess monitors. Targeted training for all staff every 2 years on recognizing and appropriately intervening in bullying situations. I think it would be important to consider implementing the online bullying awareness training from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Each school and state college should consider providing a paper handout to parents, caregivers, students, and teachers regarding bullying policies, prevention, and intervention using a multi-tiered system of supports. The reason why I say paper handouts is that not all people have access to computers. And so I think it's really important that we think about accessibility when we're communicating policies and procedures and how best to make the information accessible. And so that's why I'm old school on this recommendation. The Code of Conduct and Bullying, Cyberbullying policies should be clearly outlined in each school's handbook and on their website. And again, it should be clearly accessible. It's accessible on the State College Area School District website, but I think every school's own individual website has some variability. And so I think that's important to look at. As a researcher, I'm biased toward annual data collection, whether it's my survey tool or any other survey tool. I think that it's really important for schools, individual schools and school districts to collect data on involvement in bullying, because then when districts, implement specific recommendations, they can look at data over time and see, oh, did the intervention that we implemented, did that actually help? Do our rates of bullying decrease? And then, finally, students who identify as different are at higher risk for being bullied. This is not unique to State College Area School District. This is a ubiquitous problem, actually worldwide. But it's really important that staff, and teachers and parents and students kind of identify, okay, how do we provide supports for kids who are seen as different. And this was something that the high school students that I talked to, really talked, very eloquently about, that, accepting differences and diversity and accepting everyone for who they are is important in terms of reducing bullying. So this is my contact information. Everyone is welcome to email me or, send me a message with any questions that you might have. But I'm also happy I'll stop my sharing, and I am happy to address any questions that anyone might have.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Swearer. Board members, I'll start on this side. Does anybody have questions for Dr. Swearer? Yeah, go ahead.
So, Dr. Swearer, I'm not sure if I might have read your recommendations about paraprofessionals in one way, and then when you were speaking, I think you might have gone a different way. But this is a follow-up of an email I sent to Superintendent Johnson and our expert in HR. The report notes that both adults and students described paraprofessionals as sometimes being bullied and lacking institutional power. The recommendations included targeted training for para-educators on active supervision in cafeteria and research and recess settings, as well as, I always say this wrong, biennial training for staff on recognizing appropriately intervening in bullying situations. So I'm wondering how administration, this is the question I posed, plans to address the concerns raised about paraprofessionals as targets of bullying by other adults, and whether additional outreach or supports should be considered. So when I read your recommendations, I read the recommendations as a kind of generalized training, and the paraprofessionals would only get training about how to supervise the recess area and the lunchroom, whereas in your presentation today, you said uniformly your qualitative data indicated that there was a concern that paraprofessionals were being targeted. And so I'm not sure. I mean, we're just getting the report, so I don't think we're going to have an answer right away. But I did want to ask our folks here, like, when is an appropriate time to check back? That was my question. But maybe you can say, no, I heard you wrong.
No, I think that you're raising a really important point. We want to train all staff, but we also want to, we also want to acknowledge that in any system there are power issues and there's power differentials, and power is, really a foundational dynamic that fuels bullying behaviors. So I think that what's important for State College to look at is, how do the paraprofessionals feel? What I heard was that there's a lot of turnover and that paraprofessionals don't always feel valued. And so one suggestion, and this is not in my report, but one suggestion could be that, somebody conducts focus groups with paraprofessionals to see how they're feeling. But regardless, what I heard from the students was that at recess and in the hallways and on the playground, or recess playground, places where there's less structure, there's more bullying that occurs, and many students felt that the playground monitors were not effective. And so that's another level of training in terms of how do you monitor and kind of supervise areas where there's less supervision.
Thank you.
So, answer to your question, Michelle and I have been meeting with SCESBA on a monthly basis and basically giving them voice to address their grievances, things that they are taking issue with. We have also talked about ways of providing them with professional development, especially during those days that teachers are receiving, their trainings and things of that nature, so that they get that as well.
Thank you. I just was surprised that that came out as a theme, and then to underscore it today with uniformly seemed noteworthy. So thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Ian. Other questions? Jen, go ahead.
You go ahead.
So one of the things that I had a question about, we had, I think when we did kind of a deeper delve into the report as a board, we heard that students were not feeling heard or believed, or to the point of, and even if we didn't discuss it, this is something that I have students and parents on a regular basis saying to me, they don't feel heard. And so they give up and just don't report, or just deal with it on their own, or figure it out themselves. And so my concern is how do we stop that? Because that's not okay. That breeds all sorts of things. So I guess I'm looking or thinking of concrete ways for us as a district to focus on that. And I didn't know if you had any suggestions.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. And that's, again, a uniform concern, is that people feel if I report, either it's going to get worse, or nothing is going to be done about it. And so there's that feeling of hopelessness, kind of like, why bother? Or like you said, I'm just going to handle it on my own. I think it's really important to think developmentally. So what reporting looks like for elementary school kids may be different than middle school or high school. I also think a similarity is creating an environment where people feel like I am heard, and that my report is taken seriously. And so, one person who feels, that they're being targeted or being bullied is one too many. Ideally, obviously, we would have no bullying. So, any way schools can create, a climate where, kids, students, and parents, caregivers feel like, here's the process. This is what happens when my student, my child comes home and reports being bullied, or if the school contacts me and says, my, son or daughter is bullying, that we have a dialogue about it and have a conversation about it. And basically the foundation is trust. Parents need to trust that, and students need to trust that the school has their best interests at heart. And so I think one of the challenges that I saw, particularly at the high school level, is the high school is such a big school. How can the high school create smaller pockets, whether, you call them learning communities or smaller, groups within the larger high school, and how kids then, students and parents know this is the person that I can go to. So, for example, in some school districts, the students, let's take middle school, for example, they'll have a counselor in sixth grade, and that same counselor follows them through seventh and eighth grade. So I think thinking about what are adult continuities that you all can put in place from the administrative level, the school personnel, school mental health level, and how can kids have and parents have that continuity that they know the same counselor or the same person is going to be a point of contact for them. Now, obviously, in the perfect world, in a perfect world that would happen, but we have turnover and things like that. But I think thinking about how do we create reporting structures that the parents and the students trust, and then something gets done, there's a disposition. So even when you can't say to a parent, this happened, because of FERPA and HIPAA, you can say you want to create an environment where the parent knows something's going to happen, that these are, and that's where I go back to the, handout, that this is what we have in place in terms of programming at a tier 1 level, tier 2 level, tier 3 level, and then the parents and the students know that these are the programs that are in place, and they trust that something's going to happen. So when that trust is broken, that becomes challenging, and it's, so it's incumbent on all of us as adults to think, okay, how do we create that sense of trust and confidence that something will happen when I, as a parent or I, as a student, report my experience.
And kind of as a follow-up to administration, what for us is do we have an action plan yet as far as things like that with making reporting structures consistent and just so that everybody know? Are we not quite there yet?
Yeah, considering we just got the report, we will, like any audit that it's done, we will create an action plan and then present that out to you. Just like we did the mental health audit, we'll do the same thing with this. And we'll run it through various stakeholders to come up with what we're doing. So it's going to take some time to get that to you.
Thank you.
Jesse?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, said students who identify as different are higher at risk, or is this mostly like LGBTQ students or students of different racial groups, or who have a wrong accent or wear the wrong color socks?
Different can be anything.
Yeah.
So different, it's, if I were to kind of summarize that statement, it would be different from the norm, right? And so the norm is different in any given school. And so what I always say, to teachers and administrators is, the kids who may be seen as different, and like you said, it could be anything. It could be you're wearing the wrong shirt, or you don't have the right brand of clothing, or again, it could be LGBTQ youth. It could be racial identity. So I think just for adults in schools to think about, okay, what systems do we have in place where kids can be, feel a sense of belonging, regardless of where they come from or their accents or anything. And then also thinking about within every school and classroom and, building, how do we create, an environment where differences are celebrated and unique and not, targeted, as somebody who would be targeted for being for bullying.
What kinds of, is there something about how we're dealing with this that's different from how we should be dealing with it?
No, I think that, I mean, so when I met with the Delta, students, I think that the Delta program really serves a very important function and need. And I think thinking about clubs and organizations and things where kids can get involved and feel a sense of belonging is really critical in every school in every district. And so really thinking about what is offered as opportunities for kids, and how do we make sure that every student feels that they've got some connection to the school. So I don't feel like nothing stood out in terms of things that I feel like you all should be doing differently. I think it's just something that we all should be thinking about. How do we create supports for all students? And and again, I think State College is a very, rich college town, rich in the sense of diversity, college town with a lot of opportunities. And I think thinking about, okay, how do you create those opportunities for all kids?
Thank you.
All right. Other questions for Dr. Swearer? Tim or Lily, did you have any thoughts on? No? Okay. All right. If there's no further questions, we thank you for being here with us, Dr. Swearer, and certainly I will be in touch if we have follow-up questions. Dr. Booker, do you have anything else you wanted to add on it?
I do not.
Okay. Very well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Swearer. All right. So we next have an updated agenda item 10B, an update on the administration's decision to discontinue the Elementary Virtual Academy. We will be, Dr. Booker will stay, and Dr. Downs, Ms. Palm, will join us to provide an overview of this decision.
All right. Thank you for having us here. So I asked Hope and John to join me here today so we could answer any questions at the end. So here to give you an information item on the closure of the EVA program. Just wanted to provide the context and background of the administration's decision in late March to discontinue the program that will not be offered next school year. We're also going to outline the steps that we've taken to support students, families, and the staff through this transition to ensure that they're prepared for the first day of school in August. Some time to sort through those individual situations. So just a little context, the EVA program, as during public comment, many of the people referenced, the Academy was established to meet a significant need during COVID and following COVID, during the COVID pandemic. However, since that time, enrollment has slowly dwindled. While the level of resources required to sustain the program, the classroom has remained largely unchanged. So over the past several years, the district and the Virtual Academy leadership, including John in that discussion, we yearly evaluate the program's enrollment to determine just trends and where we could recruit for students that are going to cyber schools, students that were maybe better served in a program within the SCASD environment as opposed to outside. So after lots of careful review, the district decided that we will be discontinuing the program, the classroom, and these decisions reflect several converging factors as to why we decided to close the classroom. So I'm going to ask John Downs to go over those converging factors what led to that decision.
Yeah, and before I get started, I just do want to acknowledge the heart and soul and effort from Linda Andrews and Jen Yoder. They've been put into this elementary virtual academy from day one, and so I think that's duly noted for our speakers today, including some of our students. So they should be recognized for that. This has nothing to do with their professionalism, hard work, effort, or passion for teaching and learning. But as Dr. Bucher acknowledged, we've had declining enrollment over the past several years, which brings challenges when it comes to economies of scale. There was some note in the memo about in-person instruction. The students that come in person, the students online do receive in-person instruction. It's just a challenge with a wide span of grades to get the same instruction they would get in a classroom with their same age peers. It's not any fault to anyone. It's just the nature of a program when you have a grade of six grades in one room, that you can't give the same instruction for each kid because there's a broken up of cohort. For example, we have one kindergartner, one first grader, one second grader, one third grader, 5 fourth graders, and 2 fifth graders. So that's a challenge, obviously. And as a result, also, we have limited access to services that these students have not had access to, including specials like STEM, phys ed, art, music instruction, things of that sort. So that's certainly a challenge for that. That's typically available for all our elementary age students. And overall, the district obviously has to evaluate every year the efficiency and how we use our resources. And so that was a point as well in this decision.
So since the decision was made, the district has worked very hard to ensure that the students and families have a smooth and meaningful transition to their respective buildings for next school year. Some of the things that we've done is direct outreach to the families. Dr. Downs and I both called the families ourselves to let them know about the dissolution of the program. And the families that we were not able to get in touch with by phone, we did send an email, or we also made home visits to some families. We've coordinated some supports, district leadership. So school social workers and EVA teachers have worked with the families to identify what a best option is for next school year for these students. We've talked about different options, the buildings that they would go to, what that might look like for them, scheduling, and the supports that they might need in the classrooms. We reached out to the building principals and school counselors and asked that they reach out to the families and offer tours of the buildings for the students and their families so that they could see what the classroom might look like for them next year. Anyone who was interested in Delta, the 6th grade students had meetings with Dr. Downs and talked about what that could look like. We are also in the process of meeting with the counselors and the building principals at the elementary schools and the middle schools in order to talk about each student and that student's individual needs or unique situations. And finally, staff reassignment. District leadership has been working with the Elementary Virtual Academy staff to look at positions and possible positions for next school year to find a best fit based on certifications.
Yeah, one point I tried to make towards the end of my brief presentation was talking about staffing needs in special education across the district has grown, as you all know, and so that was taken into consideration in terms of the EVA operations and needs across the district and the growing needs in special education. So I want to note that point.
Thank you, John. So it would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge and reaffirm what John had said about the teachers and the staff that work with the program, and it was the students that came out this evening with their families. So we recognize the hard work that's been done there and the relationships that they've built. But we'd like to recognize that some of the families, they did share concerns here tonight and, the emails prior to tonight. And we feel that we've heard them and we've tried to reflect the concerns that they raised in the transition efforts that we've made. We're definitely committed to supporting the students now as well as in the years to come. So we look to work with those families, and the staff and the principals and the counselors at the respective elementary buildings have been really great about supporting those conversations. with those students and getting the alignment for what the students may need as they move forward into possibly attending those elementary schools for the upcoming school year in August. So that would be our information on the process, and I'd like to open it up for any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. I know we had a few board members who met with some of those parents. Did you? We can start over here. Yeah.
I have a lot to say, but I first have a question about one of the slides. I think it was the first slide. Oh, sorry, the second slide. Okay. So the special education needs. After EVA staff expressed interest in leaving and given growing special education needs, reallocating these positions better serves critical student needs. Did EVA, it was my understanding that EVA staff did not express interest in leaving. So I was confused by that.
So without divulging too much information, the personnel, we were approached by more than one staff member.
Okay. Okay, so here's, I wrote a lot down because I was afraid I would forget. We are very, as a district, I feel like we are very quick to, as we should be, celebrate our winning sports teams, the TSA victories, our merit scholars. But programs like EVA that aren't going to win any national awards garner just as much attention for us. We should be paying just as much attention, if not more. Because we're not here to win awards. They're great. But we, as a district, are here to educate our students. We're here to educate all of our students. And this program fills that need. Isn't this a program based on all of the testimony given and after speaking with some of the parents? Isn't this a program we would want to invest in, find ways to bolster the numbers? If we are seeing success in smaller numbers, why do we want to get rid of that? It's a program that's kept children in our district over the years, as opposed to having those kids go to charter schools. It's a program that shows that they can differentiate instruction in a strong way and have a collaborative community where kids feel safe. And after just hearing Dr. Swearer speak, feeling safe is of the utmost importance. And I know it's hard. It might be hard for some people who have students who are run-of-the-mill students who easily fit into the mold. And I was that student. School was easy for me. I loved school. It was easy. Everything, it was fine. I had friends. But as a parent, I expected that to be my same route with my students, and it was not the case. So anybody who just thinks, we're just going to take these kids and we'll put them in the elementary schools and they'll be fine, and we'll have a few supports here and there, it's not that easy. These kids have developed a rapport, and it's not just with specific staff members, it's a community. That was one of the words that was used so many times when we were hearing their stories, was it was a community that was built. And this is a community that perhaps is rather underserved in many of our other traditional programs. Neurodivergent students were mentioned, students involved in, having life-threatening health conditions, extreme poverty, or just students that otherwise didn't fit in the normal brick and mortar setting. And the success of those students shouldn't be valued any less than the success of our star athletes and our straight A students. Each person in these classes is somebody's child, and their successful education is literally our business. That's what we do. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And I understand, I mean, we just had the budget report, and I don't want this to sound like I don't. I know that it comes back to budgetary constraints is what I feel like we're being heard, and that money could be, best be used other places. But I mean, I wonder what kinds of needs are now not going to be met if or when EVA is discontinued. How many special education teachers are going to be needed for those students that maybe previously didn't need IEPs, and the evaluations that need to be conducted for those students? I just want, the bottom line, it's our job to educate students and meet all of the students' needs. And when you have a program that's doing that, why are we getting rid of it?
So, I would like to answer your questions. I wish we could meet all kids' needs. I do. But we do have a limited budget, and we can't offer every program necessary to meet every individual need of our kids. What we can do is provide the needs for the students in a larger schematic. What you talk about is happening in our elementary schools. There are communities, there are relationships, there are marginalized kids that are suffering from the same type of things that are in those schools, are still successful in our other elementary schools. And it's a testament to what they are. They kind of have worked themselves into a situation where those students are now becoming successful in the elementary schools. A lot of them have said they have made that transition either to the Delta program or to the elementary programs on a number of different occasions. In this case, the program was designed for the students coming out of COVID. They have slowly decreased because it's mainly an in-person school, which is what we offer in our elementary schools. The other thing is that we have financial responsibilities to other areas of our population that are in dire need, and that we are mandated to provide teachers to. Our special education population is growing immensely, where we are needing 2 to 3 teachers. We have to get those teachers from somewhere. If we add to a budget that we are already pulling monies from the general fund to pay, it's problematic. So we got to look internally to our programs that we have to fill our need. We can't have 2 teachers in a para for less than 12 students, when each teacher could be teaching 21 to 24 students. A special education teacher could have up to 50 students under their caseload. We just can't offer everything here in this school district for all the needs of our students. We're going to have to make financial decisions that are best for the school district. And that's why this program is up. We have tried to build this program. I have had principals from my elementary principals call each of the students that are going to cyber schools to see if they would be interested in coming to this. And we have done it in multiple years. It's not like we haven't tried to market this program to get it to a point where it could be survivable. There's a lot of things that we have tried, and it just hasn't been successful. Not saying the program wasn't successful. I think the program was immensely successful in getting kids back into the elementary schools, which is what we're trying to get, which is a full school program from 8 to 3, allowing them to get all the services, counseling, nursing, special education services, and all the specials on a regular basis. That is what we're trying to do. We know that virtual program is good, but it's not as good as what we're offering in person in our schools. And that's what we're trying to get to.
Go ahead.
Can I respond to that? I want to give other people a chance to talk too, but just a real quick response. I guess something to point out is that everybody who came up didn't ask to save the program forever, but asked to stay for a year to allow these kids more time for transition into another program, for us as a district to figure out how are we going to meet the needs of these kids that have been in this environment and now need to go to this environment. Because transition is hard for everyone, but for somebody who is in a different environment who already struggles with change, it's extremely difficult. And I know measures have been taken, but it was in March, and that's not enough time. So, sorry.
Ann, go ahead.
I sent a lot of emails, and I really want to appreciate Jonathan Bucher for responding to those many emails. And so my remaining questions are less about the specific recommendations and more about how the decision aligns with our broader policy commitments and our decision-making processes. Our first policy that we are going to look at next after this item is the magnet schools policy, and it opens with this statement. The board recognizes that non-traditional themed learning environments can offer pathways for student engagement and thus academic success. If we move forward with discontinuing the elementary virtual academy, what non-traditional district-operated pathways will remain for elementary students whose educational needs might not well be served by the traditional program? So it seems like policy-wise there's an inconsistency with what the board is proposing in magnet schools and what we're doing with the agenda item previously. The second, more broadly, my concern is whether our decision-making process adequately accounts for small groups of students whose needs might be significant even when their numbers are relatively small, neurodiverse, allergies, military. While I've previously raised the question of minimum notice periods, and I appreciated, Jonathan, you responding to that, I also believe there may be value in a broader board policy discussion about how and when families are engaged when the district considers substantial changes to specialized programs. So as policy committee chair, I'm happy to review our current policies to see whether there might be opportunities to strengthen our expectations in this area. So I completely understand that the outreach is happening now. I'm wondering, as a board, what our role would be to encourage that kind of outreach as a norm, so that we encourage, if we're going to make a policy, a program change, that stakeholder involvement happens before the decision is made. So I guess my only question is to, one, is there any non-traditional district-operated pathway for elementary students, and then the offer to look at the policies. So, and again, thank you, Jonathan.
So they're not the same. So Delta's 6 to 12. We have Hearts at elementary, the Student Pathway Center, which is 6 to 12.
For elementary, it's only Hearts, but you got to understand, we have community elementary schools. We have 8 of them, where we have smaller schools size for for those schools. That's the whole purpose of having, community, is so you have a smaller school and you're not have 4 larger elementary schools. You have.
I understand. I saw personally an inconsistency between the next policy and then this. And so I'm just trying to understand.
Jackie, go ahead.
Hi. So I really want to thank the families who came down tonight, especially the students. It was really great to hear from them. And I know it's hard to get up and speak in a public board meeting. So thank you to those families. I just want to reiterate that some of the points that Mr. Johnson made, that this idea of there only being one pathway through elementary schools in this district, I think is a little, maybe we need to talk about that a little bit more, because there are a lot of different supports and programs and opportunities for students in elementary schools. And so yes, they're all sort of in a traditional school where they have a classroom with 22 students and 1 teacher and some paras, but there are so many varying pathways within that structure. And I just want to say, what I'm hearing up here too is that I am so glad that these students had a great experience in this EVA program, and that everyone in this district remains committed to helping meet the needs of these students even after this program is discontinued. That it's not that we can't find other pathways for them to be successful as well. And everyone up here is saying that they're really committed to making that happen. So I just want to acknowledge that and say I appreciate that. And I really do hope that these students, if they transition to different schools next year, can find those great experiences, because I know so many students in our elementary schools do, because we have such awesome teachers and staff who work to make that happen. So,
Amy?
I'm going to add something. Just one thing, Jackie, I failed to mention in our presentation, is part of the process for the EVA program was that we sit down at the beginning of the year and we have goal setting meetings with the parents. And I don't do those. John did those this year. And some of the parents, not all the parents, their goals are for their kids to transition back to an elementary school or transition back to Mount Nittany Middle or Park Forest Middle or possibly even Delta. So we take some of that, we have to take that in consideration, that's where they want them to get to, and we work with them. And some of the kids that, well before this decision was made, had transitioned to some of the elementary schools back in January, possibly November, December. So that's another factor that parents have a say in where they want to get their student ultimately.
Go ahead.
So, a couple comments about our situation here, and then I'd like to make a couple comments just to remind us all of some bigger picture things to think about. One, I agree. I appreciate the families that came and spoke. I read all the emails. I know also that the staff that work there are incredibly dedicated and wonderful staff who love and care for these children and have for all the children that they've served in our district over the years. Certainly, that intimate community has built some really deep personal connections. That's really clear. And we know that personal connections are important for kids to be successful. So as you said, I'm grateful those kids had those wonderful experiences at that really traumatic time in our country and community's history coming out of COVID. Secondly, I do think there are some bigger picture things for us as a district to think about and talk about as a learning experience from this process. I don't discount that for families with deep needs that the time frame feels short and fast. And that's something we should talk about more, as do we need to be more cognizant of that and in the future as we move and talk about programs. Some discontinuation of some programs have happened over a long period of time, partly because they were bigger programs involving more moving pieces. So it was more complicated to dissolve them. But we should think about where that balance lies. I think that's an appropriate question to ask, and I think it's an appropriate one for us to talk about. I think I both agree with both Anne and what Jackie said. I think there are a lot of pathways within our small community schools. They are a smaller setting, but we do have other opportunities for 6 through 12 that we have limited kind of experiences for elementary kids. So as we look at other models, it's something to keep in our minds. I think the challenge with EVA is that that ratio of adults to students was, frankly, it's costly. Every adult we put in a room with students has sometimes a somewhat fixed cost to it. And so how many students they can serve is unfortunately something we always have to talk about at the school board and in the district and in regards to the budget. And that's a good segue to talking about how I want us to zoom out. The one thing I've learned in 12 years of serving as a school board member, things about our children are very personal and intimate, and they should be, and you should advocate as such. I certainly have advocated for my own children. But when we talk about how we function as a district, we have to talk about all the systems, and that's not just our system. And I know I'm tiresome that I harp on this continually, but our system does not operate in isolation. We operate under the state and federal government systems and funding. And the way we fund schools in our country is dysfunctional. It does not work. It does not serve students best. It's why multiple states have had, court cases go and fight their constitutions, et cetera, about the funding sources that we create in our country. When we primarily rely on property taxes, we skew how students in our country are served. And this even plays out in affluent districts like ours. Our district is affluent, but we are facing some budgetary issues, and we are facing a growing population of students. And the biggest thing that I have learned is that this job is a dual-edged sword. I feel like I am constantly, just like you, Jen, wanting to look out for the most vulnerable. How do we make sure that their needs are met? How do we make sure that they are protected? Absolutely, I'm with you, 100%. And then sometimes we hit these walls where we're looking at this giant system of cogs and wheels, and we have finite dollars, and then there becomes times where we have to make a decision, sometimes reluctantly, very, very reluctantly, to serve more students when we may want to serve some of the most vulnerable and try to do everything we can to still meet those vulnerable students' needs. Sometimes when we have a population of growing special ed students who are also vulnerable, we have to meet their needs. And I don't like making that decision, ever. I've made it a lot of times in over a decade, and I don't like doing it. And I want our community to be mad at the systems that create the situation that force us to make those decisions. Yes, we should have conversations about doing our jobs better. We should have conversations about serving our families as best we can. But everybody needs to get angry at the right places. And largely that's how we fund our schools. And why is that not a priority? I could talk about what other people put priorities on, like our military infrastructure, but that's a much bigger conversation. Our children are much more vulnerable and much more valuable. And so please keep coming and engaging with us, help us make better decisions, but also take your anger and your activism and direct it in the places it also needs to go, which is how do you force our larger communities to properly fund schools? And I'll let my soapbox go back under the table.
Other comments, Jesse?
Yeah, I just wondered, you say it covers about 12 students. About how many of them do you have already made decisions on transitions? And what have they been doing?
Some of the families that we contacted had made decisions prior to us even contacting them. Some families, it's historically send their students back to the elementary schools for certain grades or by certain grades. I would say roughly half of our students, the families were on board right away with, or had already made the decision to go back to their traditional schools.
Okay, I mean, did some go to the charters or the cyber schools or?
I know of 2 families that have toured local charter schools, but to my knowledge, a decision has not yet been made.
So essentially, a lot of it is settled in a couple of places. I understand that, and educational alternatives often do work very well for a lot of families, and I do hope that whatever these parents end up doing will be ones where their children can succeed as well as they have so far. But I'd like to hear, like in a year, how these 12 students are doing, and if this has had a significant effect on them.
Go ahead, Lily.
I'm trying to figure out how I want to construct this, because I'm not going to pretend like I understand the budget at all. And I'm not going to pretend like I understand allocating resources. But a lot of what the last 2 presentations that I've heard here tonight have been talking about is the sense of community and belonging, and offering that to students, and just kind of overcoming educational adversity in any way that we can. And what we do have already are a lot of really great programs across our district that work very hard to do that and establish those communities, such as Delta, which was mentioned in this presentation as being offered as a possibility for students going into middle school. But to tell the kindergartners that are currently in EVA, I believe you did mention there were at least 1 or 2 of those, that they have to wait 6 years to get that kind of care or assistance, or just even group of people to relate to, is really disheartening. So maybe it's just taking steps to appreciate what EVA has already done for these 12 students, acknowledging that there's going to be more than 12 students like this in our district that could use these kind of resources, and offering Delta-like supports at the schools in ways where students from Delta volunteer to come in once a month and talk with students after school if they want to stay after. Or there's a lunch table where a teacher can sit and offer like this kind of community to just be opened up. Putting a hand out is free. Offering people to take it is what they can choose to do on their own. Thank you.
Yeah, Jen?
I think something that we haven't really, one way that we haven't really looked at it, everything seems very black and white. We can keep the program, we can get rid of the program. And I'm just not understanding why there's no gray, why there's no middle ground, why there isn't a keep it for a year and figure out how to change it, this to me sounds like something that would very easily fit with the Pathways program, and having something morph into something. But to just say we can't spend the money on this year right now, we're done, and it just doesn't make sense to me that there's no middle ground, that we can't find a workaround, we can't try to get more students, have less staff, try to work in it with the Pathways. It just seems like we haven't thought it through the whole way.
Deb?
I guess just a little bit in response to that. It's not like the program was shut down in the middle of the school year, which would have been an abrupt change that I think everyone would have said no to. I grant that more time might have been nice, but realistically, I feel like we also have to balance, you know, if you tell people too soon that something might be happening, it creates a lot of angst that may or may not even be necessary if it turns out that the program could have been saved. So I go back and forth in my mind on that. I think it probably would have been better to have had more time, but we're not talking about no transition time. Just because the school year ends doesn't mean the administrators aren't working and aren't talking and reaching out to the families and figuring out how to help with this transition. So March to August is still a half a year of transition time, which granted isn't enough for some, but it is enough for others. And it is a financial consideration. I mean, what if we kept this going at the cost, what are we going to cut? Like, that is the question. Everything has an opportunity cost. And if we keep this program, what are we going to cut instead? Sorry. And I'm just going to say, like, as a board member, I want to weigh in, but I also trust our administration to have considered all these things because they are more expert in the types of programs that will be beneficial to the most students. And so I don't want to impose my particular opinion at this point in time. I'm not going to ask for a change. I'm supportive of the administration's recommendation.
This will be the last thing I will say. I don't want anything that I ever say here at the board table to be taken as me thinking that any of our administrators are not doing their job or not competent at their job or not doing the very best of their ability. But there are times when we look at something and on paper it looks like a good idea. Fiscally, this looked like a good idea. And then we heard from so many families and we heard about, hey, could we stay it for a year? There were options given and communication that should have happened before. I mean, in communication discourse is how we make decisions. Discourse is how we figure things out. Not saying that every single person needs to weigh in, but I just think that there are times when we need to look back and say, you know what, maybe we really shouldn't have done that. And not just we shouldn't have done that, let's do better next time, but we shouldn't have done that, what can we do to make it better for these students and for our community?
All right. Go ahead, Ann.
Your emails were very clear about the budget, and I understand that. And I take your point. I also think that it's in the role of board governance to consider requesting stakeholder engagement to be part of the decision-making process. And that is something that I don't want to be lost out of this conversation. Both things can be true in terms of, and I understand we're in a unique situation of special ed, and this is an opportunity for us to have stakeholder engagement be something the board really commits to. And I'll say I'm done.
I would just follow up on that by saying the timing aspect of it absolutely feels short and it feels somewhat regrettable, but I also think that the information that came about with the budget to make that decision came when it came. And we understood that was when the information came and that was when a decision had to be made. When you talk about stakeholder engagement, however, And I will echo what everybody said. I really appreciate the emails. I appreciate, some of you setting up a time to speak with some of our board members. And but in a decision like this, the stakeholders include everyone in the district, because it's about district resources. And if we're moving pieces around and we're trying to support special ed, for instance, they're also stakeholders in this decision because it's a pool of resources that we're drawing from. So I don't necessarily think that, I don't think the decision itself is made in isolation. And I think when we're looking, sort of to Deb's point, at the whole budget and we're looking at the whole district, I think the families in this program would absolutely say, we want it, this is worth keeping. And they may be right that, I may agree with them, and I've heard some of what they've said, but the stakeholders include everybody, right? And I think probably the conversations that happened included other groups of people.
I think if a program is going to be closed, the people who are impacted it are a key stakeholder.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think your point is really important. And I think it's one when we talked about the International Baccalaureate program that we raised as well, that while that we certainly felt that the voices of the stakeholders as part of that program was really critical and very, very important, it was also our job as board members, as there's a former student from very early in my time on the board who we many of us, even those of us who have gone on to other roles, refer to frequently. And he was a very astute young man who advised us that our job is to think about who's not at the table and what would their voice be saying. And so, so certainly I concur with you wholeheartedly. Members of a program have a right to have a strong voice in what it brings to the table, but it's our job as board members and administrators' jobs to also look for the other stakeholders of the entire district and how does that all shake out in balance, and how do we do that? And I don't want my comments about how do we do better to be taken as if I don't care about this issue. I do. But that's our role as a board, and especially as policymakers, is to consistently look at everything we experience and decide where is the governance role, and if we feel like there's a governance role that was overlooked, then we put in safeguards through policy to ensure that that governance role is then adhered to in the future. And that was my comment about, yes, there's some things we should talk about and think about and decide, is that our role or is that their role? And do we want to put something in policy that provides some safeguards to ensure that it happens, should it be something we feel is a governance role and should happen? So that's our job. It's not me putting down this one instance or saying, oh, well, we'll do better next time. That's not my intention. My intention is our job is to consistently look for where we need to put fail-safes and stopgaps in to ensure that moving forward, we're doing our best to provide a good experience for our community. And the one thing I will comment timing-wise that you brought up, which I think is a good point, is that I know from Jackie and my participation on the special ed plan that the outlook on enrollment and needs in special ed dramatically changed only like a month ago or so. I mean, there was some trepidation and worries that there was a real crunch in this coming budget, but then some of the enrollment numbers were confirmed and escalated pretty quickly, and that's without even what we know. We typically get some students coming in the summer because of the transient nature of our parts of our community. So we know that number is highly likely to grow further than that. So there were some changes in what we knew and what we were anticipating we needed for the upcoming budget in a short time frame as well. So I just think that's important to highlight for everyone. So I appreciate very much all the very thoughtful comments this evening, and for those that listened to my rant. Thanks.
I just want to say that as far as the budget is concerned, if you looked at Randy's projections there, we are going to have to make some tough decisions in this board. And I just want to prepare you, because there's going to be people that are going to be upset with your decision making, because it's either going to affect class sizes, programs, facilities. It's going to have instrumental, unless, as Amy says, something changes with the educational funding. It's affecting schools and our surrounding areas that are already in the deficits and the red by millions. So I want just to prepare you that it's coming. And it's going to hit our district as well as it's hitting some of the districts already. And we're going to have to make some tough decisions, especially facilities and what we do and staffing.
All right. Well, I think unless you guys have anything to add, we will leave it there. And thank you for joining us this evening. We are going to, yes.
Yeah, can we take a break?
Sure, yeah, we can take a 5-minute break. That's fine. We will reconvene in 5 minutes. He said that she'll be back. Go ahead and call us back to order, CNET, if you're good. All right. I would like to call back to order the regular board meeting of the State College Area School District Board of School Directors. Moving on in our information reports, we're going to policy updates, which is 10C. Dr. Demo and Ms. Simpson will be providing us with updates on several policies. So I'll turn it over to Ann.
Great, thanks. So our first policy is policy 151, magnet schools. And so PSBA did not have a policy draft on this. So I want to thank our policy team. I know Jonathan, I think John Downs, and Jeannie worked really hard on it. And so we're really grateful for your labors to put this together. And Jonathan, I have this right. If we pass this, this is a magnet school for not only Delta High, but Delta Middle. Great, great. So let's see if there's anything else I want to highlight. I think that is going to open it to questions, discussions.
Questions about magnet schools, Deb?
Just one, you said operation of any magnet school in the district, including but not limited to Delta. So at the moment, that's the only magnet school we're talking about.
A Delta High and Delta Middle.
I just, you remember, we had one policy when I was on council that applied to like one building in the entire
Oh, so
borough.
Are you suggesting a change?
I'm just making a little joke here.
Oh, okay. I'm too.
And it's sort of strange when you write a policy that's very general and it mostly applies to one specific thing, but anyway.
Okay.
Well, oh, sorry.
Deb?
Thanks. So I just want to clarify what I just heard between Ann and Jonathan and a little bit what Jesse said. Like, I read the policy as allowing for the possibility of magnet schools. And then if Delta wants to be deemed a magnet school, there would be a designation moment. Are you saying that this designates Delta as a magnet school? It doesn't, actually. I'm fine with either. I'm just making sure that I understand. I was, in my mind, I was thinking it was a two-step process. This was general, and then I don't know what it takes to become a magnet school. You just have to have a policy.
The second paragraph, this policy provides a foundation for supporting the operation of any magnet school within the district, including but not limited to Delta Middle and Delta High. So, Jonathan, do you?
Yeah, so we had discussions if there would be a separate process for approval, but the way the policy was written, it could be read that this in itself Delta would become a magnet school. So the idea of if there was a performing arts school from today on, we would then have a separate process to designate an additional magnet school. So I was in reading into the policy that this would be one and the same.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I guess in addition to the policy, then I guess I have questions like, so what does it mean to be a magnet school? What is designating Delta a magnet school do for Delta that they don't have now? Is it just paperwork with the state? Is it like, I'm just curious. So let's start with that, and then I do have a question about the policy itself. But
So the first thing I think is it is a better descriptor of what takes place at Delta, right? As opposed to an alternative school,
sure,
which is defined many different ways depending on the person you're talking to. Usually a negative way, to be quite honest, that people think alternative schools are for where kids that can't function or they're bad, because that's how our society defines alternative, unfortunately. So part of it is a marketing. It's just a better descriptor of what happens. The state does not identify magnet schools. A school is a school is a school in Pennsylvania, so there's not a separate designation for magnet schools. There's not really a federal designation. There's a process you can go through, like a self-audit, to see are you operating the best you can as a magnet school. But it's my understanding that through talking to people and experts, including a local parent and professor at Penn State, that the policy is what would define us as a magnet school. And so we're trying to better define what Delta does and is in the community and to our own prospective families. And also, we will now have a cohort of schools we can refer to in Pittsburgh, in Downingtown, in Philly, of course, where we can compare procedures, policies, et cetera, as opposed to go find an alternative democratic school in Pennsylvania.
Okay. So then you've mentioned, a performing arts school. That would be the unique identifying characteristic. Downingtown, I think, has a STEM magnet school. So I'm assuming it's the democratic process is the sort of defining characteristic that.
Yep, democratic process, student voice, student ownership, that kind of same kind of theme we've been operating for since 1974.
Okay, that's great. I hadn't read it that way, so I'm so glad that this conversation happened so that I'm aware of what we're doing, and more importantly, so the public is aware of what we're doing, that this is actually designating Delta as a magnet school, or magnet schools, I guess.
Yeah, I'm working with Jeannie, who's a blessing to this whole operation. Left it general in case there are future magnet schools
Sure.
that could be
Okay.
needed by the district.
That's great. Do you mind? I have one question about the actual policy.
Go right
now.
ahead.
The very last paragraph. I'm just not exactly sure what it means. So I thought I would ask. On the one hand, all applicable district resources, programs, and services shall be accessible to students participating in magnet schools. But on the other hand, is how it reads in my mind, there may be unique offerings and specialized pathways that basically make it hard to have access to everything. Is that what that means?
Yeah, and
Okay.
in that, we actually spoke we spoke about this before, because it does seem a little like on the one hand and on the other hand, but I do think that there is a commitment, obviously, to athletics, things like that. But contemporaneous example would be, when students enter Delta, they understand that they might not have access in some ways to music instruction the way they might at other places, and so it's an acknowledgement that is that fair? Okay. It's an acknowledgement that we have a commitment to all these resources, and kind of what we were just talking about with the budget, resources are not exhaustive.
Right.
So we do recognize that that's an interesting teeter-totter of a paragraph. So if you have suggestions.
I just wanted to make sure I understood it. That's what I understood it to mean, and I'm fine with that. I think that there are trade-offs, and some of it has to do with economies of scale. So,
John, do you have anything? You're an expert more than me.
I couldn't say it better than you did.
Yes, you could have, but okay.
Yeah, one other just a side note, when we did the transition to Delta, PIAA required for the Delta students to be able to participate in state high athletics. We had to quasi-designate it as a magnet school, and they just said, tell us you're a magnet school, and that suffices so that they can be in the same team. So this just gives it more solidification.
If I could add one thing too to that, if you remember when Delta transitioned from a program to a school, along that same time, there was also a policy that was dissolved around alternative programs. And so that was concerning to the community. So this, I think, helps kind of reinforce Delta's existence in the district as well through policy.
to be clear, I'm very supportive of Delta. I'm supportive of the policy. I really just wanted to make sure, are we doing another vote? So I'm happy to do a 2-for-1.
I guess just the one thing I want to add to your point, having been involved in a lot of that, is that what I hope comes out of it, both as a board member and a Delta parent, is that it really puts the focus on the theme piece of Delta. I think so often it's talked about as a smaller institution, but I really think it's important for our educators and our board and our community to focus on the purpose of it being there is the theme. And that should be the reason that people are seeking it out, is for that experience of the theme. Because if it was a performing arts school, you wouldn't be going there because it's smaller. You'd be going there because you want dance, theater, music, whatever. So, and I think that's how we have to focus. And I think it's important to have that in mind as we talk about resource allocations, that the resources that we allocate to a magnet school should be, the first priority should be meeting the needs of providing the theme of the school. Those are my comments.
So with that in mind, I mean, do you want to keep the board recognizes that non-traditional and just say the board recognizes that themed learning?
I did kind of go at non-traditional because, but it's really not a hill I have to die on. So,
Tim.
She wants Tim's opinion because as a Delta student, I don't know. It's.
I work for you, Timothy.
Oh, my.
As he sits there and thinks, which I'm happy to see him do, this is going to provide a lot of clarity, I think, to our community that doesn't currently exist, including peers that I work with. I recently had a meeting with all fifth grade teachers on a Zoom or a Google Meet on elementary that Kelly Mark helped set up. All the special education teachers in the district at the elementary level, help them provide some clarity because there's so much confusion about Delta. And to Amy's point, we have a lot of people that say go to Delta, it's small, but we're also small resourced, back to the economies of scale. And so it causes some strain on our current system when students are coming to Delta, not because of the reasons Delta exists, because they don't want to be somewhere else. So they're not necessarily like invested in Delta for what its magnet is. They're just trying to avoid something else, which can be problematic.
So I hear that as, is the theme to you is the heart of Delta, not the non-traditional. Is that, am I overreading?
I think that's accurate.
Anyone else thoughts on that?
I'm also a former Delta parent. I think non-traditional makes sense here, and I think the word should stay.
I don't even know what traditional schooling means anymore. Yeah. Like, do we have to go back to 1960? Like, what was the day of traditional? Like, I feel like we offer, kind of back to our earlier discussion, many non-traditional pathways through school, not just through Delta. So I'm not really sure it's a good qualifier in this situation.
I'm old enough to have a high school friend who went to a one-room schoolhouse. So
wow. Tim?
Your kitchen table was traditional.
I'm ready.
All right.
I personally don't see the wording in this specific document to be ultra important. I don't think the community is going to be analyzing this, but if we do want to be intentional, I do think Delta has, and when it was the AP, has always been targeted by parts of the community, and I think most of the time that was from a place of not understanding, as John said. If the goal is to legitimize Delta as not just a place for the delinquents or the whatever the million rumors there are, both from students and parents and teachers in the district alike, using a word such as, what was the one that was suggested? To take out. Or to focus, non-traditional, to put the focus more on the fact that it's democratic, or themed, that's right, could be beneficial.
Point of order, let's keep in mind this policy is supposed to be about any possible magnet school, not just Delta, so let's just keep that context. It's not Delta specific. Seems that way currently, but long-term, it's a point to be made.
And to that point, I mean, I don't know that anybody would look at Downingtown STEM Academy and consider it to be non-traditional. It's focused. It's definitely themed, and it's a focused theme. Maybe focus is a good word. I don't know, but it's not necessarily non-traditional.
So this has been through policy already, correct?
Yeah, but we also have just had a discussion about like non-traditional, and so
Right.
like I'm just trying to clarify alignments, and so that's what.
Okay.
But so
I don't know if we necessarily want to push it off. I know it's about something more broad than just Delta, but you know, John's point I think is well taken, and I'm hearing it a little bit from Tim. Like if we are looking to this policy to help better define and delineate what Delta is to the broader state college community, right? Tim's point being the Delta community isn't going to parse the words too much. But if we're concerned that there's this reputation in the broader community, if alternative had a bad connotation, then will non-traditional have the same bad connotation? And we don't want to continue that, I guess. I hadn't thought of it reading it, but now that you brought it up, I think it's a legit question.
Why don't we put both? Non-traditional and/or themed, focused learning environments. So it can be either. So it doesn't have to be themed. It could be non-traditional. Right.
All right.
All right. This gets into like real nitty gritty, like psychology, how people read things, but maybe put non-traditional as a second
After.
clause.
After.
Yeah, seriously,
Yes,
like
yes,
the
yeah.
focus themed learning
Yes,
environment
we can
and
do
or non-traditional, whatever. It just kind of,
Reverse.
It's mini policy committee. All right.
all right, I think we can move on.
I think we can move on.
But that's what this is for. Deliberation. Yeah, thank you. Wait.
there was a wave for, you've seen it waved, so you're good. Go ahead.
So now we will go to 218.1, which is the weapons revision. And I want to thank Danielle Ambrosia and Brett Wilson for being here and your expertise in helping us with this. PSBA recommended these policy revisions in conjunction with applicable laws. And so there's a note on the policy about what replica means. We had discussions about that. Since we went so long, I'll just kind of open it up to anyone who has any questions or discussion on this policy.
Jen?
Yeah.
I guess it's more how we enforce it or handle it, unless, I mean, if we say replica and that includes every single replica, but then we go to the child who brought it on their Halloween costume and we expel them for the rest of the year, that's problematic, but that's not typically what we do. Like that hasn't been the precedent. So I feel like saying replica in that way, is okay with the knowledge that administration can make allowances.
And that was part of our discussion, in part was about the discretionary component. And so that was raised at policy. And then what happens with expulsion and, questions about those kinds of exceptions. And so I do feel like there was due diligence of all those kinds of questions. Okay. So if anyone else doesn't have any other questions, we will move.
I think we're good. Nope.
Do you have a question?
Was there another question?
No, I was just clarifying.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so then we will move to 18.2, which is terroristic threats. Currently, the behavioral threat assessment from the PSBA recommends new language, and so we've incorporated that. And language related to incident reporting is also updated. And we had good discussion about that. One of the questions that came up was, what does it mean about as soon as practical? And that was, it becomes difficult because our policy has to cover so many different types of situations that you really do need that kind of flexibility.
Okay. I saw Deb's hand.
Oh, thank you. No, that was helpful. I was going to say lack of specificity, which was.
I had 2 questions. This is very different from the current policy, as you stated. It says something about, like, some of this information is more appropriately addressed in the district's safe to say procedures. But, like, I feel like the previous policy had a lot of useful information that the parents might find helpful. Like, if their child went through a threat assessment, or if it's only in the safe to say procedures, is that accessible to parents? So where is that information going to go that the parents could access it if it's no longer in this policy? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like didn't
Like,
you all say it was like in the student handbooks?
The information about if there's needs to be a threat assessment done, that seems to be the main focus of what had previously been this policy. So where is that information going to sit if it's not in this policy? Like, I'm fine with it being in a different location. I'm just curious what that location would be and if the parents could access it in case they want to understand what does a threat assessment mean.
Yeah, so the threat assessment is kind of the internal documentation that we make based on the behavior or instances that a student has. So just kind of looking at what parties are involved for that individual case. The safe to say procedure, that is on the website and in the student handbook. And that sort of stuff is located there. So without having that old policy, I'm not sure what all was included in there that was taken out of this one.
It was really all about the threat assessment. So, hold on. I'll see if I can get it up real quick.
While you're looking for that, we rely on the state handbook for that, on threat assessments, which is publicly available online. So we use that same format going through threat assessments.
Okay. Like, so the current policy, looking at it on board docs, is called Behavior Threat Assessment, which is a very different title than terroristic threats, but I'll get to that in a second. It has definitions, what are threats, what are early warning signs, imminent warning signs, precipitating events, threat assessment inquiry, and then the process of the threat assessment. And I guess as a board member, I found that really interesting because we sometimes are told about threat assessments that happen. So it was helpful to me to be able to see that information and how it's done. I can be given it in a different way, but I think also for a parent whose child maybe has been the subject of a threat assessment, I think it's useful information to be able to access. So I don't need to know the answer tonight.
Yeah.
But like, can we look at what we're replacing and find a place to put that information easily online, even if it's directing it to a state website that has all the same information, just so that parents can find it?
Yeah, I think it might be under student services. If I remember correctly, Gene Kness put together a whole thing that might have that information, so I would look there first.
Okay. Like maybe this is duplicative of something else, and I'm just not aware of that. And I admit I didn't look for it in another place, but so that's just my concern. So maybe we can just think about that, come back next time, tell us where the information will go.
And we'll make sure it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's easy to do. And then, I followed a couple of the links, so I understand that either the state law or school code uses the words terroristic threat. But I just wonder if that's the appropriate title. I feel like there are threats that I'm not sure I would characterize as terroristic
that might still warrant a threat assessment. And so, I don't know. I would not go looking for something called terroristic threat for, my kid got a text from somebody else that said, I'm going to beat you up after school. Not that that's appropriate in any way, shape, or form. I just don't know that I would call that a terroristic threat. If this is what PSBA wants us to call it, this is not a hill I'm going to die on. I just have that connotes a different thing to me in my mind.
Yeah, I understand, and I appreciate the question about clarity. So that is covered in our Code of Conduct under Inappropriate Language Gesture Act. There's like a bunch of different delegations of the exact example that you used.
Okay.
Especially working with secondary students, they get frustrated. They say things that imply certain actions, but they don't mean it in a malicious or terroristic type of way. So our discipline process at the building level would ensure that we would follow our Code of Conduct. Okay. We would, of course, contact parents involved. We would follow all of the processes in our discipline that we currently follow. So we might still start a threat assessment. We might find that's really appropriate, but it's really based on the student context, the situation, and the investigatory process. So that's not going away. Those processes aren't going away. This is more for that, what meets that legal quota. And
Okay.
This policy, I think the intention, and I'll kind of like look to Dr. Bucher and Mr. Johnson, really this type level of threat, we would activate our school threat team, we would activate our SRO, like those types of people would be brought in to collaborate.
So the intent is really to distinguish a much higher level of threat, because the old policy, again, was a lot more general. Okay, that's fine. I'm cool with that.
And also, we're kind of at this point where we're trying to keep aligned with PSBA because we can eventually maybe be, there are different, I can't remember exactly what happened, but we want to make sure we're aligned so that someone doesn't look and say, well, everyone else in Pennsylvania is doing this, but you're calling it that. And so I think that kind of consistency with the norm is really important. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So back to your question.
You found it.
Yes, threat assessment process is under our school safety and security.
Okay,
So it spells out that process.
perfect. Thank you.
I think we're good then with this one.
I'm good.
Any other questions? Okay. So now we are at smoking and tobacco products, 222. This is a revision. PSBA recommended heavy revisions, and so that there was a lot of kind of, shifting from smoking to tobacco, which reflects the current kind of unfortunate situation of our world. So anyone have any questions about or comments, feedback on that policy?
All right.
Okay.
Relatively.
And then 227, controlled substances. Again, it was currently titled drug and alcohol, and now it's called controlled substances and paraphernalia. PSBA recommended this new language, kind of in that similar sense to 222. Any feedback? Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate your expertise.
Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, stamina too.
That's right. Okie dokie. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Our last report this evening is on the 2026-2027 budget. We'll again be joined by Mr. Brown and Mr. Vigileone to give us a brief presentation.
So we just wanted to give you a brief update in the information that we reviewed during the budget hearing. There were just a couple of changes. We've highlighted those since you approved your proposed final budget on April 20th. In that budget proposal, it does include 2 additional positions expected at this point to be elementary counselors, but based upon evaluation of student enrollments and other staffing retirements or resignations, could be for another area depending on the need. And then also making a recommendation to increase a currently 0.6 FTE administrative position, a 1.0 by adding 0.4 to their existing position. This position would not only continue to work with the virtual academy at the secondary, but also assist the special education department with their various needs at an administrative level. So if there's any other questions, we'll be happy to take those. Otherwise, the budget proposal has been unchanged since April 20th.
All right, Jackie, go ahead.
How many elementary counselors do we currently have?
I think there is one in each building.
Okay.
One in each building.
So that would be 8.
Okay.
I can do that math in my head.
Other questions for Joe and Randy? Yep, go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, so I guess, so we're going to increase the virtual academy administrator, but the virtual academy role is certainly not growing.
Right.
Based on our conversations. So they're going to be given assigned other tasks.
Correct. They're only 0.6 right now.
And so would the intent be to utilize this as a potential
To help the director.
supervisor-like position under the 2 special ed? So that was a potential position also that had been discussed before.
Correct.
So by adding a partial, the hope is to have this individual do that
Correct.
assistance work and that to provide more capacity in that
More
department.
capacity.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that's the main focus because I think that's a really intense need, both not only because of the growing population, but also in order for our administrative staff to maintain their ability to persevere in their roles. So
Correct.
great. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that's 100% where it was going.
All right. Yeah, Deb.
Wouldn't be the budget if you didn't have a question.
Thanks. It's okay if we don't have an answer to this because we're not even 100% sure they're going to be elementary counselors. But I'm wondering if you have an idea how 2 additional counselors would be used at the 8 elementary schools. Is it like a, sharing between schools? Is it areas of particular need? Is it we don't know yet? I'm just curious if we have thoughts on or plans on that you're ready to share.
We knew this was coming.
I'm giving you the out.
Yeah. Yes.
So-
Yes. It depends on a lot of it because
Yeah.
of all the things that potentially could occur with the EVA program and what we can use those staff in, and depending on how many kids of those go into a charter school or not, will depend on how many staff positions we have available or need to convert into special education teachers.
Gotcha.
So we're waiting for all that to work out, then to figure out the counselors. And that will involve Danielle, Stephanie, and the counselors to figure out how to best utilize those positions. Right now, we just know that there's a need because of the ratios, which provided in our mental health audit. So we're trying to remedy that as much as possible.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you, gentlemen. That concludes our information reports for the evening. Next on our agenda is an opportunity for board members to share updates on their committee initiatives. So Central Intermediate Unit CIU report. Jen, do you have anything?
Unfortunately, I was sick at the last, so I'm going to have to defer
Okay.
to Jackie again.
I'm just going to take 30 seconds to say the CIU 10 was happy to host the reading competition at the high school. And there were over 40 teams of 4th and 5th graders who competed and answered questions about reading. And Dawn Hayes is amazing and organized the whole thing. And it sounds like it was a lot of fun. So just love that collaboration. Thanks for collaborating.
On that note, I just want to let you know that the IU-10 is going to be sitting in when Bucks County IU comes here to provide us the training and the professional development so that they can emulate that for other districts and us in the future. So just want to let you know.
All right. SCASD Ed Foundation, Deb?
Yes. We had a meeting, I think it was just last week. The Ed Foundation approved the new MOU that we approved at our last meeting, so that is moving forward. Center Gives netted a little over $4,000 for the foundation, which I think was designated to the Marty McDonough. Did I say it right?
No, it's the athletic fund.
That's for the maroon and gray.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the Center Gives went to the Marty McDonough Fund, and they don't push Center Gives as much because it's right after Maroon and Gray. Maroon and Gray event netted around $20,000
Very nice.
between donations and the event itself. So, and it was well attended and a nice event. Thanks.
All right. CTC has not met. I think our year-end meeting is going to be June 2nd. Is it 3rd? 2nd or 3rd? We'll go with the 3rd, 2nd or 3rd. And then just to let you know, we also have scheduled next fall the CTC's, their local advisory committee and their occupational advisory committee does their sort of annual dinner. I've talked to Ben Morden about that, and I'm sure he would be interested if other board members were interested in participating in that. So I can get you information if you would like to know about it. And that brings us to CAC's athletics. Deb?
I am no longer officially on
Okay.
CAC.
Okay.
I
Well,
gave the report last time, though, and I don't think they've met since then.
okay. And Rebecca's not present. All right. Facilities, Amy? Since-
We have not met since the last time I gave a report, so.
All right. Finance, Jackie?
We haven't met.
Okay. School health and safety, Jen Rand?
We met. Yeah. So we got an update we got a lot of great updates. Mike gave us building updates, including SROs are leading Mount Nittany elementary building tours this summer to acclimate emergency responders. From Jonathan, we got updates on relevant legislation regarding safety, Act 44, Act 47. He let us know that with the additional metal detector and an opening of a third entry location, they reduced entry into the building by 15 minutes in the overall drill time. From Stephanie, the Family and Community Engagement Team, as of April 20th, made 295 needs assessment. That Family and Community Engagement Team is so amazing. We had successful community events like Screenagers, and then the Family Book Club, The Amazing Generation, starts on April 28th, and Ferguson Township will be recognized as a Character Strong National Conference in July as a Spotlight School, and then from Megan, it was her last meeting. The Summer Meals Program begins on June 17th. So that's it.
Very nice. Technology, since we meet quarterly, we have not met. So that concludes our agenda for the evening. Looking ahead to future meetings, we have tomorrow, May 19th, 2026, here in the Panorama Village Boardroom at 10:30 a.m. will be the Policy Development Committee. And on June 1st, 2026, the Committee of the Whole regular board meeting will take place at 7 p.m. here in the Panorama Village Boardroom. I would now like to adjourn this meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Yay.